Good evening, and welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint Netcast number 215, recorded live on Monday, September 22nd, 2014, from Cincinnati, Ohio. Unlike Iowa, where Todd is from, I am actually from a city that I can say the city, and you've heard of it before, right? Todd's from the whole state of Iowa, whatever that is. Not me. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm here to hang out with you tonight. Hopefully soon to be the home of the world champion Cincinnati Bengals. We are 3-0 heading into the bye week. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Shane Young. I work with Todd, and you've been the butt of many jokes on this show, so I'm guessing you've all got a little context of who this pretty face is. So, quickly, before we get started, we'll do our plug, and our plug is, as always, for our friends at Rackspace. They pay for Todd's world, they pay for my world, and a whole host of other rackers. And they provide all the hosting and bandwidth for this netcast every week. And, normally Todd gives you a certain link, but I'm going to give you a new one. Since I'm the boss guy here, I can mix it up. And so I will give you www.rackspace.com/Microsoft. That's a link to all of our different Microsoft offerings. And if you look on there, the very first one is a Cloud OS offering. Kind of been one of those pet projects that I've been working on here recently. So check it out. You got any questions about Cloud OS, Hyper-V, System Center, or Windows Azure Portal, or PAC, or P, whatever that P stands for, WAP, give us a shout. All right, so production notes. Last week, Todd was out at SPTechCon, and the video has been posted on YouTube, but not on. He hasn't done a blog post yet. He's been reminded, smacked him around a little bit, but I guess tonight he's in Chicago. Him and a couple other people are out there working with Microsoft about what the next conference is going to be. Looking at the venue. Apparently they met the mayor. I don't know. It sounds very complicated and mostly made up as a reason not to be at work today, I think. But nonetheless, Todd will hopefully get last week's show up on ahead of time. Also, speaking of production notes, it's probably worth noting that you'll have production notes next week that says that this week's webcast probably doesn't sound perfect because, well, it's from my house, so such is life. All right, well, let's just jump right in to the meat of this. The chat room is starting to fill up, and they are already starting to whine about having me instead of Todd, which is very unfortunate for them because, unlike Todd, I'm interesting. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. A couple of things, a couple news notes first before we jump into. I have a fun topic for us. Microsoft made it easier. They announced today for students of schools where the school is subscribed to Office 365 for those students to get a free copy of Office. Post the link there, but it's they can use their school email address and name to sign up and get access to it pretty quickly. I guess when they announced this program last year, the process to sign up was just way too complicated. It took way too much of the school's effort, so a lot of them just never did it, never gave them access. So they just announced today they had a much more streamlined process, so hopefully more of the students will be able to take advantage of the free Office for them. So that was pretty cool of Microsoft. Completely random, speaking of Microsoft, not really, but speaking of the bad guys, those iPhone folks, they announced their new 45-inch phone, and it's supposedly groundbreaking. If you haven't seen any of the Samsung commercials yet mocking them, because Samsung's been doing it for a couple years now, having large screen phones, I think those are pretty funny. So, Apple is not the latest and greatest. They are a couple years behind. I mean, hell, there was even a Windows phablet before the iPhone 6 Plus came out. But it's a game changer. Oh my gosh. So anyway, those commercials amuse me a lot. I don't know who Samsung's agency is, but whoever they are, they get kudos from me. They generally make pretty good commercials around making fun of the different devices out there in the market. So kudos to Samsung. That was probably really loud. I apologize. My water bottle's having troubles. Okay. The next topic here, real quick, I wanted to hit on was so Todd and I, as you know from last week's Netcast, we're out at SPTechCon. And I just kind of want to give you a quick rundown of the show. So it was out in Boston, and it was a good show. The next one, interestingly enough, will be in February in Austin. So that'll be the first time headed to Austin. So I think that's interesting. I've actually, Todd as well. We've done all 12 of the SPTechCon shows. I remember when they were a little upstart. Now it's 12 shows in. Kind of crazy. But looking back at the week, there's a lot of interesting stuff. I think, as you can imagine, one of the most pervasive topics still is cloud. A lot of people, every session it seemed like had something to do with the cloud, whether that be Office 365 or hosters like us at Rackspace, or really just people who like to say the word cloud. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but cloud seems to be one of those buzzword bingo things that would fill up your bingo card pretty quick. So thought that was interesting. I wouldn't say there was anything new in the cloud realm, just more and more of it coming out. Another one of those fun things about the show at SPTechCon was, in the sessions I did, I kind of took informal polls. How many of you are new to SPTechCon? I also did that when we did the lightning talk with the room of, 300 or 400 people. I'd say almost half of the show was new people. And, you're like, yeah, whatever, who cares, right? Good for them. But I thought it was interesting from the standpoint that, we think of, a lot of us, we've been doing SharePoint now for, goodness, I'm coming up, in a week, I'll be renewed for a 10th MVP, 10 SharePoint MVPs. I've been doing SharePoint for a really long time. So a lot of us think of it as old hat, like, hey, what's the new cutting thing? SharePoint's getting boring and stagnant. But that's just not true. The people that are still just rolling into SharePoint on such a hot pace, it's kind of crazy. So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting at the conference. That about half the people I talked to or polled were new to the show. So the SharePoint world is still just growing by leaps and bounds. So don't ever take it for granted. Obviously, if you guys are here listening to this Netcast, either live in the chat room or I lost my place. Where's my reading my script? I'm not following my script. But no, we all think of SharePoint as just old hat and it's boring technology, but Microsoft keeps investing millions and millions of dollars into it, and people keep coming to it. Companies are still spending billions of dollars every year to deploy new stuff. So don't take for granted how important your SharePoint skills are and how the SharePoint market is still there. It might be evolving, right? Office 365, SharePoint Online might be making some changes for us. We might have to adapt a little bit, but SharePoint's still pretty hot. So don't get too excited there. All right. What else? Another thing about SPTechCon in Boston, though, we stayed at the Boston Park Plaza Hotel. I think that's what it is. It looks like it was built in the 1920s. Kind of had that roaring 20s feel about it. I don't honestly know when it was built, but that's a look it had to me. Had these cool elevator signs. The problem is I think the hotel was last updated in the 1920s as well. So I don't know about you, but that was almost 100 years ago. Really tiny rooms, which, is fine. We're Americans, or us Americans. I know we're not all Americans, but us Americans are very spoiled. We like big hotel rooms, right? I like our massive houses. We bigger is better. Yeah. But the it was interesting to see how people react to the smaller hotel rooms. Those were okay and all, but I think the bigger problem a lot of us had was it was so not soundproof. So I had the lovely misfortune of rooming next to Todd, literally the room adjoining his. Not going to talk about the experience, but let's just say it was disturbing. And so everything, we were doing sessions, you heard other rooms, there's people out there doing construction with the jackhammers. It added character, I guess, but I don't know. I've gotten used to my my Marriott, my JW Marriott that I was in the week before with a hotel room that was like 2,000 square feet for just me to sleep in for a couple nights. I don't know. It's different. So in the chat room is currently making fun of me. They could totally see me preaching from the pulpit. I'm not going to lie. I have thought about it before. I think, I'd like to be a televangelist. I could get up there and, do my best Jimmy Graham impression, or Jimmy Graham, he plays football. Billy Graham, Jimmy Graham impression. I can dunk, so I guess I can do Jimmy Graham impressions also. But, I don't know. It's fun. So anyway, a little more on SPTechCon. So our actual sessions. So we did one on PowerShell. PowerShell is powerful is what I've named it in the room. And it was really just kind of reminding people to, everyone needs to know PowerShell and going over the basics. I'm sure you've all heard it from Todd before. I won't bother you with it now, but everyone that wants to work in the Microsoft world has to learn PowerShell. So get with the program. And so, but in the lower thirds, hopefully about right here somewhere, there should be a URL. There is a recording of Todd talking about that out on our SharePoint.rackspace.com. And so there's a YouTube video, Todd talking about PowerShell basics. If he hasn't ever shared it with you, I've now shared it with you right here. Next session we did was upgrading, and I wrote upgrading is universal, right? Yeah, alliteration. So we've got a recording of that session that we've done previously as well. The upgrade session, it was fun as always. It's always interesting to hear people, well, hey, my 2003, how do I get that to 2013? Or my 2007, how do I get that? And those are a lot of the questions that we kind of get to walk through with people. It's usually either go with a partner solution or you got to go with the intermediate farm, right? We don't have any magical tricks. But during that session, and it was like a half-day workshop, someone asked a question that kind of got me off on a tangent. We started talking about, so in SharePoint 2013, when you upgrade a 2010 database, it updates the database schema, right? So the database becomes a SharePoint 2013 database, but the site collections all stay at SharePoint 2010 site collections, right? And so then, the site collection administrators can kind of one by one do the eval site collections or actually upgrade the site collections. Hopefully you've all been through the process. If not, the video right here. Woo! I hope that's really where they're at, because if that is, it'd be kind of cool. But that video will walk you through it. But we were talking about it, and they said, well, what about when we get to the next version? And I haven't seen the next version. I haven't talked to anyone about the next version. So there's no NDA that I can violate at this point. Yay me. When I start saying I can't answer those questions because I might be under an NDA, you'll know it is. But right now I'm not under anything. But I was noticing in the PowerShell for upgrade that there's a property at the web application level that you can set that controls whether or not at the web app you can create 2010 site collections or 2013, right? And by default, you can create both. And so sometimes people want to flip it all to 2010 or all to 2013, especially once they finish the upgrade. There's no reason to do 2010 anymore. Yada, yada, yada. But if you look at that, it's not a simple like Boolean, can you do 2010, true or false. They actually have a min level and a max level, right? And so the min level in that case is 14, the max level is 15. My hypothesis is that that is opening the door so that when we get to SharePoint next, which is coming out sometime next year, right? SharePoint 2015, I guess is what we'll probably call it. I'm not going to be surprised if they're not planning to take advantage of that min-max version, and that a SharePoint 2015 deployment, right, which would be 16, will be able to do a min of 14. So they could do 14, 15, 16, 2010, 2013, and 2015 site collections. I have no proof of that. I have no reason to believe that. But that is my hypothesis on what's going to happen with upgrades. So there you go. It's on the internet now, so it must be true. All right. The last session we did was admin skills. And so the admin skills session, it's always interesting because it's really just Todd and I kind of talking about whatever the heck we're in the mood to talk about. We talk about Office web apps and claims and search needing more hardware and the farm needing more hardware in general, but there's just a lot of that type of stuff, and we just kind of go off on random tangents. And so, as webcast people, you're probably used to the random tangents that Todd and I go off on. So anyway, those were the sessions we did at the show. All right, I did a better job of taking a quiet drink of water that time. All right, so anyway, that was our friend SPTechCon. So let me change my notes over here. So that brings us to our last main topic of the night. And this one, you're going to have to kind of put your thinking cap on, because it's not directly SharePoint. It's more of, I like to think of it as a business class topic. But, one of the roles that I've had for probably almost 2 years now at Rackspace has been leading a product group. Right, so it's one of the 17 things I do, but I've had a product team, so we rolled out the multi-user, multi-user, per user SharePoint farm, right? So our ability to host like SharePoint Online. And now recently I've kind of switched gears, and now we're doing the, I'm working on the Cloud OS stuff, right? So Cloud OS, Hyper-V, trying to help that product get off the ground. And so I kind of want to talk a little bit about running a product team and just, running projects in general from a technology perspective. I think there's a lot of interesting things that I've learned, and I read something the other day that kind of really set me off, and I ended up writing like a 10-page email to my team, like, look here, people, we will not be this. So as we look at it, we'll do the little lower thirds thing here, right? There's an article on Business Insider. It was probably 2 weeks ago. And this article, it was talking about an investment group that had bought into the Darden Group, which is a group that makes or has a bunch of restaurant chains, right? So they have Red Lobster, and I'll forget the list of them, so I don't want to mess it up. But one of the ones they have is Olive Garden. And so this investment group that came in, they went and looked at Olive Gardens, and they started just tearing them apart. They had like this 40-page PowerPoint presentation that walked through and said, here's all the things that Olive Garden is doing wrong that's keeping them from making a profit. So if you read this article, it's pretty interesting. The slides are neat just to kind of see how other people think about, when they walk in cold. But it really got me to thinking about breadsticks. So then I had lunch. And then after I had lunch, I kind of dove into it a little more. And so in the article, they do things, they call out that, hey, your to-go containers are they're dishwasher safe and microwave safe. And you just have these really high-end to-go containers. They're non-standard sizes. Your straws are non-standard sizes. Just started ripping into them and all of these things that they were doing wrong. And so I don't want you to get caught up on the actual to-go containers, but it was a great example for me to use with my team that when we build products, right, I have some really super smart engineers working for me, that they have to be careful that they don't get caught up building the most correct thing possible, right? So when the guy set out to get to-go containers for the Olive Garden, right, he probably had an unlimited budget, just needed to go solve the problem. We needed to be good at to-go containers. So he went and shopped the market, right, and he found the highest end, most technically perfect and sound to-go containers, but he never once stopped and considered, hey, do these make sense? Do my customers actually want these? Are people willing to pay us more for takeout because we're in a fancy container instead of the cheap styrofoam containers that come from Costco? He never worried about any of that, right? He just said, I need to find the best containers ever, and he went and he solved that problem, and by golly, he knocked it out of the park. But he was very short-sighted of him not to look through the story all the way, right? Who needs dishwasher-safe to-go containers? Have you ever stuck your to-go container in the dishwasher? I haven't. Lori hasn't. I'm guessing none of us have. When we look at our product, right, as we build out this our private cloud offering, it's really easy for my tech guys to get in and we're working on the storage device, right? And they're like, well, we should use these cutting edge SSD with on-the-fly encryption, blah, 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 blah. And they list out just this phenomenal setup, right? Which would be super fast, super secure, and super freaking expensive. And then that's where I push back on them. I'm like, okay, that's great. We should have that offering in our portfolio. But what about the customer who just wants to put pictures of this cat in this storage enclosure? Are we going to make him do it on these disks? Well, yeah, these disks are the best. Why wouldn't he want to use these disks? Because they cost a lot of money, right? So I have to push back on my team and say, you can have that option. You will have the technology purist that wants it. But at the same time, you've got to make sure that you're thinking about, what do all your customers want? Not what does a super nerd you want, but what do all your customers want? So then we have to have an offering with SAS-based drives, right, or SSDs that aren't super encrypted, blah, 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 because we need to have that portfolio, and we need to think about the people who are actually buying it, not the nerds that are building it. And so it's a common trap, I think, that we fall into as IT folks, right? As SharePoint people, we all get caught up in That's the best way to do it. The only way possible to do this farm is with 17 servers, and you got to break all these things apart. You need to roll your code out like this and this and this and this. But if that's not fitting what your customer wants, why are you doing it? Why aren't you sitting down with them and saying, all right, here's the Cadillac offer, not even the Cadillac, here's the Ferrari option, right? You love this Ferrari option. I just saw one the other day that was wrapped in chrome. Amazing. Probably cost like $500,000 though. Or, when I talk to some people, they don't need a Ferrari. They need a Ford Fusion, right? They need a solid, dependable, gets the job done type of car. So, which this all brings me, one of the most interesting points though, because I just talked about, you need to worry about what the customer wants and the customer needs. But, we have I work with some other people in my past life, and they were really big on, yes, we need to know what the customer wants. We should build what the customer wants. Blah, 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 customer, which sounds great, right? Because that's what I just told you. It's got to be what the customer wants. But the problem with that is we live in the technology world, right? Every one of you, everyone on this show, right? We're all technology people. You can't spend the next 12 to 18 months doing studies and user adoption surveys and working with people to figure out exactly what it is they want. I got two reasons for that. One, we live in technology, and in 18 months, the technology landscape will be 1,000% different, and that'll be a waste of your time. But if that one's not good enough for you, my old buddy Steve Jobs, right? Not really a Steve Jobs fan. I own exact zero Apple products because I hate Apple stuff. But he had a great quote, right? It's really hard to design products by focus groups. A lot of times people don't know what they want until you show it to them. Sadly, I couldn't agree with him more, right? And what that means is, it's great to have a perspective, I think, on what your customers want, but you can't just go beat them up. You can't expect them to tell you what they want and get it exactly right. But I think a great business example of that was our friends at BlackBerry, right? You remember BlackBerries? Anyone? Hopefully not. But so the BlackBerry folks, they kept doing their focus groups and their studies, right? And with their user base, and they kept saying, oh yeah, we got to have a physical keyboard. So BlackBerry just kept pounding those things out. What did every one of their users end up doing? They all went and bought a freaking iPhone. And by the time BlackBerry realized it, caught up, made a touchscreen keyboard, what happened to BlackBerry? Bye. Right? The customers demanded. Their customers, 100% of them, all the studies they did said they had to have a keyboard. But they didn't want a keyboard. As soon as they got their hands on an iPhone, it turned out they wanted a full touchscreen. So don't fall in the trap of, expecting your customers, your users, whoever you may be talking to know exactly what they want. The best thing that you can ever do for them is show them something, right? And as a product guy, this has always been one of my biggest things is I want to get in there, I want to talk about what we want to build, and I want to build it. I want to get what they refer to in startup terms as a minimal viable product. I want to get something that I can get people touching, because until they see it and they can touch it, that is the only chance you have to get any real feedback. Study groups, they're probably fabulous in the world of, gourmet food. I don't even have an example where I think an 18-month study group makes sense, because the world is just changing so fast every minute. So that would be one of the things. Now, I did use that Steve Jobs quote, and I know that a lot of people have used it to say that Steve was an idiot, right? It's often done as the opposite. It's like, well, no, you have to do focus groups. Or Steve had the luxury of all these high-end designers. And that's true. I mean, it does take the right type of person to just completely launch a product without asking any customer's opinion. But it doesn't take a special person to make an educated guess, launch that minimally viable product, and then, take it for a spin and get customer feedback. Maybe the customer feedback is the product sucks. Could be. But at least you've given them something, because then you can say, well, why does it suck? Well, how would you have done it different? And now you're actually getting constructive, real information back from the customer instead of saying, if I show you a picture like this or a picture like this, which picture are you more likely to feel comfortable with? Who cares? But when you show them a product and you say, hey, go play with that, and they say, man, it'd be really great if the buttons were on the left instead of the right, that's tangible feedback that makes your next product better. Now, I know most of you aren't product people, but the same thing holds true for consulting projects, right? I was always a big fan in my consulting days of proof of concepts. I went into more than one sales pitch, and halfway through it, I said, wait, pause, can I use this computer? And logged into a SharePoint site and just started mocking stuff up for them, right? Because as soon as I could show them a SharePoint site and a calendar with a workflow attached to it, as soon as you just showed it to them, right? It takes us 5 minutes to do something like that. They could say, oh, the light bulb would come on, right? And they'd be like, you're right, I never wanted a calendar. I actually wanted a blah, but it took that being able to see it and touch it, on the tangible product to actually be able to carry on. So, I don't know. I could rant about this for a while. There's a lot of issues with it. Todd often uses when we have conversations about this type of topic is don't let great be the enemy of good. I think that somewhat fits here as well. But with your, with your software projects, with your, your consulting engagements, even your internal projects, get something out there and try it out. Focus groups and study groups are great if you've got all the time in the world, but we live in the technology world. We don't have 18 months. We got 18 days. What can you do for me in 18 days? That's my challenge to you. All right, so I'm guessing I couldn't really keep up with the feed there, but I'm guessing as I got all excited about all that, they're probably making fun of me the same way they did when I talked about governance. I don't know. I like to bring a little culture, a little higher thinking to these things. I don't like that Todd guy who just likes to ramble. So my 2 cents. All right. So I think on that note, I think that's about all I had for topics here. So we'll just jump over into promotions. And the first one is I actually want to announce a promotion. So I am in charge of the Netcast for the next 2 weeks, right? We all know this. So I feel as my first job as acting president of the Netcast is I want to give Lori Gowan a promotion. She is no longer the person who takes notes for Todd. She is now the executive producer of the Todd Klindt Netcast. So I want everyone to take a moment, give her a round of applause. Yay! This show is not possible without her, especially when Todd's not around. So there you go. She has been granted the official title, henceforth and forever. She will be known as the executive producer. So there you go. That was my official promotion. I was supposed to tell you that Todd is, out this week, so he's checking out the conference center. I told you he's meeting with the mayor and all those things in Chicago. True story. I think they really did meet the mayor, and apparently Todd said something rude to him. I don't know. We'll hear about that more in 2 weeks, I'm guessing. So he's helping Microsoft work on that. That'll be in May 4th through the 8th when that show actually takes place. Next week, you'll be stuck with me again. I'll have to come up with some new controversial topic, or maybe we'll continue on the product guy topic. I have a lot of thoughts. But next week, Todd will be on the exchange, the SharePoint Exchange Forum in Stockholm, Sweden. I think this is like his 4th or 5th trip out there. He's been over there quite a bit. So he'll be over there September 29th through 30th. He'll be doing a Visual Studio upgrading or Visual Studio load testing session for SharePoint. And then a upgrade talk. So which really means he'll take all the smart things I said about upgrade last week and just parrot them out for those people. And then the final promotion is, next week is this guy right here from Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm trying to actually get a guest to come in for the live studio session, sit about right here with me. We'll see how that works out. I don't know if I can get him to come up, but since I live in a city where there's other people that have heard of SharePoint, unlike Iowa, which is an entire state, could be exciting. So, all right. Sorry, in the chat room's asking when will they see me on the road again. I actually don't have any speaking sessions planned right now that I know of. So, I'm not going to be at MVP Summit in November. I think I'm home for a while. I guess we'll have to wait until the conference schedules for next year start rolling out before I start figuring out where I'll be. So, all right. Well, guys, I appreciate you hanging in for the webcast tonight, or Netcast, webcast, simulcast, whatever this is. There's a Monday Night Football game on that TV I'm going to go turn on here in about 2 seconds. So thanks, and have a great night.